Have you ever stopped and wondered why our relationships today can feel so, well, fragile? Almost like a business deal? We're going to explore a really powerful way to understand and, more importantly, improve our connections, all based on the incredible wisdom of Yasser El-Huzaymi. So let's dive into his framework for building connections that are actually meaningful. All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to figure out what's actually wrong with modern relationships. Then, and this is key, we're going to look inward at the one connection that changes everything. After that, we'll get a practical playbook for dealing with other people. And we'll wrap it all up with a fundamental choice that we all have to make every single day. So let's get right into it. Part 1, the diagnosis. Al-Hazimi says that before we can fix anything, we have to really get to the bottom of why so many of our connections feel like they're built on quicksand. You know? So what's the real root cause here? Okay, so Al-Huzaymi kicks things off with an idea that might feel a little sharp at first. He says that every single relationship is driven by need, period. And when you think about it, it makes sense, right? We connect with people because we need to feel heard, we need support, we need to feel seen. This isn't a bad thing at all. It's just how we're wired. The real danger, as we're about to see, is when that need is the only thing left in the tank. And this, right here, shows the slippery slope perfectly. Modern thinking has kind of taken us on this wild ride. First up, you have scientism, which tried to boil us all down to data points. That way of thinking fueled individualism, this idea that we're all just islands completely on our own. And that leads straight into contractualism, where every single interaction becomes a cold math problem. What am I getting out of this? The final stop on this train? Dehumanization, where people stop being people and just become things, resources to be used or obstacles to be removed. El-Huzaymi has this amazing analogy for it. He says it's like we're all on this super fast train. We feel like we're being modern and cool, but really, we're just passengers being carried along by the tracks of modern trends. We have no idea where the train is actually going, and we never really stop to ask if we even wanted a ticket for this destination. And here's the result of that train ride. Our sense of self-worth has become this fragile balloon. It needs constant puffs of air from other people, likes, praise, validation, just to stay inflated. But here's the problem. The world is absolutely full of needles. A bit of criticism, a little indifference, or even just someone else having a bad day, and pop. When your value depends on what others think, it can be destroyed in a heartbeat. So, if that's the problem, where on earth do we start looking for a solution? Well, Al-Huzaymi says the first step is to get off that train. The journey to better connections with others doesn't actually start with them at all. It starts with the most critical and often the most ignored relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. So what does a healthy relationship with yourself even look like? It really boils down to one word: authenticity. It's not about pretending you're perfect. It's about closing that gap between who you really are on the inside and the version of you that you perform for the world. Because the bigger that gap gets, the more exhausting your life becomes and the weaker your true sense of self gets. And this leads to a really important distinction that so many of us get wrong: the difference between confidence and arrogance. It's huge. As you can see, real confidence is rooted in something real: actual skills, experience, and self-awareness. It's that quiet feeling that, yeah, I can handle this. Arrogance, on the other hand, is all performance. It's a loud belief in an ability you don't actually have. One is building a bridge on solid ground, the other is building it on thin air. And what's so great about this is that the signs of a healthy self-relationship are super practical. This isn't some fuzzy, abstract idea. It's about knowing your boundaries and being okay with saying no. It means treating your mistakes like lessons, not like a reason to beat yourself up. And maybe most importantly, it's about not feeling ashamed of who you are, your background, how you look, any of it. It's just allowing yourself to be. Now, a person with that solid sense of self uses other people as a mirror, but not for validation, not like that balloon we talked about that needs constant praise. No, they use others for reflection. They look to other people to see their own flaws more clearly. The goal isn't to get a compliment, it's to find something to improve. You don't get angry at a mirror for showing you have something on your face, right? You just use the information and fix it. Okay, so once that internal foundation is feeling solid, then, and only then, can we start turning our attention outward. So how do we take this newfound self-awareness and apply it to our interactions with everyone else? Well, that brings us to the playbook. I love this because it's such a simple, powerful tool for diagnosing your connections. Think about it. A living relationship is all about kindness and commitment. A sick relationship, that's driven by fear. You're just doing things to avoid a fight or to not get blamed. And then there's the dead relationship. That's just pure indifference. You might live in the same house, but you're just coexisting. There's no real connection there. So take a second. Which category do most of your relationships fall into? So what's with this number, 150? This is what's known as Dunbar's number. It's the idea that our brains have a cognitive limit. We can only really maintain about 150 stable, meaningful relationships. That's it. And this idea just completely flies in the face of our modern obsession with collecting thousands of friends online, connections that are often a mile wide, but only an inch deep. And this is where it all comes together. We really have two ways we can interact with people. There's the contractual path, which is all about rights. What do you owe me? What are the rules? It's very legalistic. And then there's the goodwill path. This one asks a totally different question. What is the kind thing to do here? It moves beyond what is simply just and into a place of generosity and true humanity. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle. After we've diagnosed the problem, after we've worked on ourselves, it all comes down to a simple choice we have to make in every single interaction. Are we going to operate from a place of contract or from a place of kindness? What a brilliant mental trick. He says to imagine that life is just a big, hidden camera show. If you do that, suddenly people's insults or their anger, it loses its power. You realize their actions are just part of some temporary, ridiculous scene, not the ultimate truth of who you are. This creates a little bit of space, a bit of detachment, so you're not constantly getting your emotions hijacked by other people. And this breaks down how that actually works. Look, step one, an action occurs. Someone cuts you off in traffic. That part is totally out of your control. But step two, how you interpret that action, that is where all of your power is. Do you see it as a personal attack on you? Or do you just assume, wow, maybe they're rushing to the hospital? The event is exactly the same, but your interpretation completely changes how you feel and how you respond. This verse from the Quran is such a beautiful way to anchor this entire idea. It suggests that even when a relationship is over, even when justice says you have a right to take back what's yours, there's a higher principle, kindness. It's that small act of grace that keeps the humanity in the connection, even when you're saying goodbye. And really, that's the question we're left with, isn't it? We live in a world that is constantly pushing us to be transactional, to be efficient, to think only of ourselves. In a world like that, maybe the most rebellious thing you can do is to choose kindness, to choose goodwill, and to choose real, messy, beautiful human connection. The choice always is yours.